Hi, I am Marina Hayrapetyan, Senior Manager of Product at Walmart Global Tech, Women in Product 21 Content Selection Committee member, and a Women in Product chapter lead in Washington, D.C. Welcome to the Blaze Your Trail stage. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment and thank our sponsors. Without them, this event will not be possible. If this is your first time attending Women in Product conference, please drop a line in the chat. I would love to connect with you. During this session, Firing Up Your PM Career, we have two wonderful speakers. First on stage, we have Tara King-Hughes. Highly committed and dynamic product management executive, Tara has designed, deployed, and monetized a wide range of solutions and platforms. Currently, she is a senior director of product management at Strava and loves mentoring future disruptors of product management. She will be sharing her experience and expertise with you in her presentation, The Real MVP, You and Your Career. Please join me in welcoming Tara to our stage.
Hello, my name is Tara King-Hughes, and today I'm presenting Creating the Best MVP Product, You. Because what product should be the number one product in your life? Y, O, and U. The role of a product manager, you can have the opportunity to be exposed to so many areas of the business and countless technologies. And that's simply because we're responsible for so many things. Execution of the vision, the strategy, thinking about the experience, all while working with cross-functional teams to deliver the product to market. Now, most people think that we're hobnobbing it with CEOs and CIOs and CTOs and whatever other C there is. But really, a product manager spends most of his or her day juggling the business, the technology, and the experience. So even though the job does have some rewards, it's also quite challenging. It's not easy to navigate the field of product management. There are so many obstacles that could possibly be in your way. A third of product managers spend their time assessing the strategy. 30% of product managers are hit with red tape and politics, and 21% fails to meet the needs of the customer. And we all know if you fail to meet the needs of the customer, well, then your product fails. And that means your company also may fail, as well as your team. And that also impacts your reputation as a product manager. So how can you have a rewarding career in product management without wanting to pull out your hair? You have to find a way how to manage the day-to-day, because in the day-to-day, the right now could happen at a drop of a dime. The must-have could happen in the next hour. And you have to come up with something to be prepared. How can you prepare yourself for all the what-ifs, all the disruptions? Well, first of all, identify something within yourself that you do very well. Your superpower. Whatever you do well, and I mean damn well, that is your superpower. Find a way to infuse that into your career so it can help you navigate over the hurdles that may be in your way, so that it will help you to connect with your team in that unique way, because that superpower will help you. It will help you drive that product to market when all else looks bleak. Another thing that will also help you to have a successful career in product management is establishing your own framework. You can go to countless conferences, webinars, read a number of books, but you must come up with a framework that's repeatable, that works for you. Number one, that framework should define success. You should have a list of core KPIs in your back pocket that will say, hey, everything is on track and going well. You should know what a successful release looks like. And so when it starts to go off the rails, you know ahead of time instead of just in time. Number two, listening and negotiating. Now, having your superpower is number one. But if you could have 2 or even 3 number ones, it would be listening and negotiating. Listening to your internal stakeholders or external stakeholders is critical, because when you're active listening and truly listening, you're hearing what's not being said so that you can get to the root of their need and deliver a product or feature that they actually desire. And negotiating, because everybody wants their thing to be number one. So how do you do that number one, as well as the other items in your backlog? You have to negotiate. You have to be able to make trade-offs, because it's just your job to make the right decision to move that product forward and still create a product that your consumers would love and feel delighted when they go through your experience. Number 3, eliminate risk. Find a methodology to eliminate risk. If that means QA is your buddy or that automated test engineer is your buddy, that is what you do. You should have a list of core tests that give you assurances that your product will be released with the highest quality, that it will function well. Number 4, stop the storming. Now, product management is wonderful, but let's be honest, we don't build anything, but we can influence, we can connect the dots, and we can bring all our cross-functional teams to the table to work it out, to have different points of views, discuss where the product should be going, and layer in their great ideas, because ideas come from everywhere. And if you have a team, a cross-functional team, at the table communicating effectively, then you will definitely have a wonderful product that has been well thought out at launch. Number 5, provide vision and clarity. And this is your job. Everybody should know that vision. If you have to spray it on the wall with some spray paint, print out thousands of stickies, everybody on your team should know what that vision is. And I will tell you this, you will have to repeat it. Just because you said it an hour ago, there is someone that you said it to who was not listening. So repeat it, because it's very important that everyone within your product team is playing off the same sheet of music, because that will mitigate any gotchas at the end. And speaking of gotchas, number 6, retrospective. You always have to take time and pause and think, could this have gone better? What could we do differently? Did we communicate effectively enough? Was our user stories clear? All of these things will help you become a better product manager. Now, in addition to your PM framework, you also have to build relationships, and not just with your team and not just with your boss. I mean, damn near everybody. First and foremost, development. Development, you have to lean in with empathy. They have to know that you as a PM and them as engineers, that you're on the same team. It's very important, because they're building that you want so much. And give them the freedom for the how. However they do it, you must trust them to do it right. QA, because again, you want that quality product. Understand the ins and outs, understand their challenges, help be their champion to get them what they need to be successful. And then in return, you will have a high quality product. Design, because design is coming up with that aesthetically pleasing interface, but they're also providing the experience, how your customer will be ushered through the product, how they will be delighted and be connected. So you also have to understand the design process. And is the product development process that you have in place, is that satisfying their needs? Is it aiding their abilities to be creative and add new, rich experiences to your product? Finance. Yes, I said finance. Because with finance, you want to know a couple of things. One, you don't want to build a product that your company cannot afford. Nope, don't want to do that. Another thing is finance can tell you how the company makes money, the revenue, follow the money. They have a story to tell, and they have a point of view to bring to the table when it comes to product. They will help you right size it, not boil the ocean. So they're always a good colleague to have in the room. Legal. Because in an age where data and privacy is so important to our consumers, making sure that your product is compliant should be another number one on your list. And yes, you'll probably hear me say number one several times because it is what it is. There could be multiple number ones. There are so many things that we have to consider when building a product. So having a legal buddy to understand the ins and outs of regulations, compliances, laws in certain states and countries, that will help you build a product not just for the states, but on a global scale. Business development, because you should know where the business is going. Who is going to be new strategic partners? How will those strategic partners help further advance the product? And how could a new feature impact your new strategic partner? These are some of the things that you have to play out in your mind. Sales and marketing are also other great people to bring to the table. Get the sales point of view. Understand some of the pains that they may be having with your B2B clients. And marketing, truly understanding the why a consumer may like this or why not. Tapping their brain for those insights and trends. Last but definitely not least is research. Because research is so critical to truly understand what is happening. Where are the trends? Where should we pivot or sunset or rethink? Research helps us with that. So having research as a partner really gives you another layer of insights. And they also have great reports that cuts down the research that you may have to do. And having them as a partner allows you to ask questions and say, I didn't know that. And you can bring those things that you didn't know and now you know back to your team. Now, in product management, we always build a roadmap. That roadmap tells us where the product is going over time. And you should do the same thing with your career. You should have a vision of where you want to go in the next 18 months, 3 years, 5 years. What roles are you interested in? And study those roles so you can see if that's a path that you actually want to go down. Evaluate industries, but take the time to write it down and map it out, just as if you were a product. Because remember, the most important product is you. You have to have a plan to plan for the disruptions of various industries. Look at what's happened in the pandemic. Every industry almost got disrupted. And so having a roadmap, having a plan helps you step back, reassess, and see, do I need to pivot? Okay, can I continue down this path? But also, in addition to the roadmap for yourself, for your career, you also must do a self-assessment. Are you the great PM that you think you are? Do you know and understand the consumer experience, their needs, the market? Are you well versed in how things are, new things that are coming to the market or things that are exiting the market? Do you have a business acumen? And I'm not saying that you have to know that every single A to Z to business, but you should definitely understand how your business works and then in the business of another industry that you may be interested in. Kind of dibbling and dabbling in several industries also keeps you aware of what's going on, so you're not so siloed in one place. Technical. Now, I'm not saying that you have to start coding algorithms, but you should be able to have a very engaging conversation with engineering. So as they're talking to you, you understand when you need to optimize and when you need to sunset a piece of legacy technology, and when you need to go back and ask for more money to expand it so that you can scale. Last but definitely not least, soft skills. Now, I mentioned listening and negotiation. Those are some skills. But being able to communicate effectively, being able to connect the dots, which is so very important to product management, take all the dots from all the disciplines, all the dots from the market, all the behaviors of the consumer, and connect it together. And then take all that information and distribute it in right-sized chunks so that the engineering understands it, QA understands it, the business understands it. If you can do that, you have mastered your soft skills and you're probably a heck of a PM. I leave you with this. The career of a product manager is rewarding, challenging, and some days it could be a little hard. But at the end of the day, if you're passionate about it, stay with the field of product management. I personally couldn't see myself doing anything else. But when it comes to your career, you have to be in the driver's seat. Even if you have to pull over, park, and look at the map and readjust your direction, you still turn that ignition and keep going. The worst thing that you could do for your career is fall asleep at the wheel and let great opportunities pass you by. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Tara. Next up, please welcome Selina Cardoza Martinez. Selina helps companies to clarify and execute on their vision to deliver solutions that solve user needs and achieve business goals. She's currently the director of product at Core Spaces, where her team is creating a best-in-class experiences for tenants in student housing and multifamily units. As a Latina in tech industry, Selina is passionate about diversity, equality, and inclusion, and has helped establish D&I Group at Quest Software. Join me in welcoming Selina to our stage for her presentation, Find Your Fit, a strengths-based PM career approach.
I want to tell you a story about a product that had a lot of potential. In 2010, my husband was a hardware engineer on Glass, a product that came out of the infamous moonshot arm of Google, Google X. Yes, this is him wearing it at our wedding. But when most people think of glass, they probably think of the term glass holes. When it was released, most early adopters of glass worked in the tech industry and could afford to spend the $1,500 a pop, while others were being served eviction notices as a result of gentrification in San Francisco and the Bay Area. The glass became this physical representation of privilege. Not only that, but there were privacy concerns, as it wasn't clear when photos or video were being taken. And these glass holes weren't being considerate of others. Now, to be clear, my husband's not a glass hole, but when you have the opportunity to use an innovative product at your wedding, why not? Putting that aside, there was a fundamental problem of a lack of utility. Glass wanted to be a consumer product, but it was clunky, the interface was awkward, usage dropped shortly after the novelty wore off. And it seemed Glass didn't know what its value was. Yet Glass is still around. Just last year, they released a second version of their Enterprise Edition, which is now being used in manufacturing, logistics, and healthcare. Glass found success when it focused its strengths and targeted the enterprise market. This is a concept we as product managers are familiar with. It's called product market fit. Mark Andreessen, who runs the VC firm Andreessen Horowitz, describes it as being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. And as we think about firing up our product management career and finding that next role, we have to think of ourselves as the product and our potential employers as the market. We need to find our fit. And remember, there are two variables that we can manipulate: the product and the market. As women, our tendency is to look at ourselves and see what needs improvement. Women make up 70% of customers in the $10 billion self-help industry. 70%. Society has made us believe if something doesn't work out, it's probably our fault. And I don't know about you all, but I find this especially true when it comes to job searching. I've had experience on the hiring side of things and chose not to give offers to amazing product leaders who, for one reason or another, weren't what we needed at the time. And yet, I still take it personal when I get rejected and wonder what I could be doing differently. That's not to say we shouldn't look at improving ourselves. I'm a strong believer in having growth mindset. But I know you're already doing this. You're already looking at what you need to improve. So we need to tackle the problem from all angles. We spend so much time on the product side of things ourselves that we forget that finding product market fit could be accomplished by finding the right market. And Glass was able to do this by changing their market. So today I want to talk about finding your fit with a market that will appreciate what you have to offer. I'm the type of person that likes to sample all the flavors of frozen yogurt before deciding on one. I've worked in various industries in social gaming, education, e-commerce, healthcare, grocery, delivery, database management tools, and now I'm the director of product at Core Spaces in the real estate industry. As you'll see, I don't focus on industry as a way to define product management job markets. Instead, I focus on the product stage and the product type. But before we get into that, the first step is understanding what you have to offer, your value, your strengths. There's a show on the Olympics channel called Sports Swap, where they get two of the greatest athletes in the world to swap sports. Yeah, the pandemic has forced me to go beyond my typical TV watching to find these gems. And you can guess the hilarity that ensues when you get a figure skater and a hockey player to swap sports. You see, Olympic athletes are successful when they take their naturally born strengths and dedicate themselves to a particular sport that is well suited for them. And even though skating is a commonality between figure skating and hockey, they are drastically different in terms of what skill sets you need to be successful. Product management has such a broad category of skill sets. It means different things to different companies that are at different stages in their product development. So to find our fit, we need to let go of the desire to be everything for everyone, hone in on our strengths, and target markets that will value those strengths. Don't try to be a figure skater when you'd make a great hockey player. Now, I want to say something. It was hard for me to identify my strengths. Growing up as a Latina in South Texas, there's an unspoken pressure to assimilate to American culture. And assimilation means leaving part of yourself behind in order to be successful. I think a lot of you can relate. As minorities, as women, as non-heteronormative or neurotypical in tech, there's an unspoken rule that says we need to assimilate to the mainstream culture in order to be successful. And I applaud the many brave people who actively resist this pull towards conformity, and the many brave people that are doing work on this particular topic. But early on in my life, I learned it was easier to go with the flow, to morph, to become a chameleon, and change myself to fit the culture. So when it comes to identifying my strengths, I've adapted so much it's hard to identify them. Also, I used to be under the illusion that I didn't have to specialize. But I realized part of my resistance to specializing was that I was afraid I wouldn't be enough. I wanted to have broad enough skill sets that I could change depending on the environment I was in instead of targeting a specific environment. I never wanted to close the door on opportunities. So when I would search for jobs, I would read the description and try to fit myself into that role instead of knowing my strengths and finding roles where I would thrive. I want us to remember, because this was something I had to learn. Just like our products, we won't be successful if we try to be everything for everyone. We need to let go and give ourselves permission to just be. This is my namesake, Selina. For those of you who don't know, she was a Grammy Award-winning artist known as the Queen of Tejano music, or the Mexican Madonna, who was taken from us far too soon. There's probably not enough time for me to get into why she inspires me. But for those of you who do know who she is, you know Selina was unapologetically herself, and everyone loved her for it. So when I need grounding and inspiration, I think of Selina. And I would encourage you to think of someone or something that reminds you of who you are. And let go of trying to be everything for everyone. The reason letting go of trying to be everything for everyone is so important is because, well, look at this. These are a list of product management skills that I compiled from various sources. Many are familiar, and I hope you're nodding along as you read through them. I want you to look at these, and as I'm talking through them, write down the ones you identify with. How would others describe you? What skill sets do you not have? Cross them out. It's okay to say, this is not me. As product managers, we have to learn to say no, right? Trust me when I say, I haven't met a single product manager who had all these skills. Now, just to orient you, I've aligned them according to what I think are the primary categories: user experience, business or strategy, and technical or execution. One could argue you could use certain skill sets like negotiation more on the user experience side, or problem solving more on the technical side. There is a lot of overlap. However, when I think about the markets and what they're looking for, these skills tend to align to one of the groups more than others. Now that I've given you a minute to identify the strengths, see if they align to one of the three categories or somewhere in between. Doing this exercise helped me realize, while much of my past experience has been more heavily weighted on the technical and execution side, many of my strengths lie at the intersection of user experience and business. And this helped focus my search for that new role. Now, once you've identified your strengths, it's important to communicate them. Look over your resume, LinkedIn, website, any social media sites. What does your About Me section say? What are you sharing? What are you liking? This is Marketing 101. Make sure everything you're putting out there is communicating your strengths and value to potential employers. Okay, let's talk about the different markets that exist. Similar to the strengths, I've separated the main skill sets into 3 categories: user experience, business, and technical. In order to create these markets, I looked at the product development stage in orange and the product type in green. Now, in each of these areas, there will be a mix of all 3, user experience, business, and tech. But I tried to lay out the main skills that companies with products in these areas need. Starting at the top is the first stage in product development, the product intro. At HEB, we did a ton of research to understand people's experiences and tested the product heavily as we were building out the mobile app. Over on the business side, you have the next stage, growth products. This has been a trend as we're starting to see more and more job descriptions with the title of growth product manager. And again, while user experience and technical skills are still needed, these companies are looking specifically for people who are business savvy and can understand the market and grow the product. The last stage I listed is product maturity. At CrowdStar, I was working on a suite of products, including our cash cow, Happy Aquarium, with the aim to maintain as long as we could so that others could focus on developing new products for the company. Focusing on execution and prioritization was key as our resources were limited. Now let's look at the 3 product types, B2B, B2C, and internal. With both B2B and B2C, you have emphasis on the business, since your products need to make money. But with B2C, user experience is more prominent. With B2B, there's a little less concern with the user experience, since the user is typically separate from the buyer. And there's more focus on execution. At Quest Software, I focused on execution and technology with a big emphasis on optimizing revenue. All right, last but not least, you have internal products who focus heavily on execution. While there is less importance on how the product looks visually, there is still an emphasis on the user experience since you're working directly with your coworkers. I dabbled in this a bit at Raft, where we created a content management system for our site. Internal products aren't glamorous, but I enjoy working on them because you can experience the delight your coworkers have when they're better able to get their job done. Like I mentioned, I didn't focus on industries because it's been my experience that 2 companies in the same industry can be drastically different. In fact, there could be many products in different markets within a large company like Facebook, Amazon, and Google. The key to identifying the market is to identify the product stage, whether it's intro, growth, or maturity, and the product type, internal, B2B, or B2C. So how do you do this? Pay attention to the job descriptions. They'll talk about the product and what they hope for. Some companies will just reuse job descriptions. So part of the screening process, you should ask questions around the product stage and the product type. And do your research to figure out how long the product has been around. Ask where it's going. Ask why they're hiring, who their target market is, and what the business model is. All of these questions will help you understand what they're looking for. And if it aligns with your strengths, great. If not, that's okay. Move on. You'll be more efficient by focusing on companies that value what you have to offer. Throughout my career, I've worked on different types of products at different stages in their life cycles that had different users across multiple industries. Believe me when I say, there are many markets out there for product leaders. If you let go of trying to be everything for everyone, if you know your strengths and your value, And if you hone in and target a specific market, you can find your fit. Thank you.
Wasn't that wonderful? Thank you, Tara, Selina, and all of those who have joined us today. If you enjoyed this as much as I did, please connect with our speakers in our follow-up interactive sessions later today. Please be sure to check out the agenda for more details. Check out all the ways to network with your fellow attendees. Reach out directly by clicking on any attendee name in the chat, or meet someone new in the networking mixer where you'll be paired with a fellow PM for a timed chat. Click into the mixer on the left. Download the app for complete agenda details and access to stage recordings. Stage replays are available in the app at the end of the day, along with the worksheets, slides, and resources. Start your own follow-up group chat here on Hopin. Click Create Session in the sessions lobby to start your own discussion room. You can send your session URL in a DM to anyone you would like to invite to join. We want your feedback. Set the in-app agenda to review sessions and talks. Thank you again for joining us.